Hello everyone, Amod here from the Target Common YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to learn more about explicit wait in Selenium WebDriver. I have covered basics and advanced concepts of explicit wait in the last video. I explained the use cases which require waiting for a condition to be satisfied. We also wrote the logic to wait for a condition, and then we used WebDriverWait class provided by Selenium to implement explicit wait. I also covered hierarchy of WebDriverWait class and about function functional interface. We created our own condition to pass in until method. We implemented apply method using a separate class and anonymous class with lambda expression. In fact, I have covered a lot of explicit wait concepts in the last video. I would recommend if you haven't watched already. In the last video tutorial, I took the example of this web page where when we click on this change title button, it will change the title after some random seconds. And I was waiting for this to happen. And we have created an object of WebDriverWait class and we are passing 30 seconds, which is actually timeout. So how it is actually working? In this until method, we are passing the condition for which we are waiting, and WebDriverWait will keep trying until my condition is satisfied. And by default, it will take 500 millisecond for the retry. That means after every 500 millisecond, it will retry. But most of the time, it's not good practice to retry frequently. In such scenarios, you want to keep your own polling time, like after every 2 seconds, it should retry. Let's see how can we achieve using WebDriverWait class. But before that, let me show you the default polling time. So I am going to put some sys out to know the exact retries time. So I am printing when we started, when we are checking the condition, and when it finished. Let me run this program and see. So it started at 23:26:10, and first retry, or in fact first time it checked the condition at the same time. It is giving milliseconds also. So you can see it is trying actually after every 500 millisecond, and this waiting got over at 26:16, which is in fact after 6 seconds. So you can see it tried a lot with the interval of 500 millisecond. But I don't want to retry after every 500 millisecond. I want to have my own polling interval. So that is very simple. You need to call WebDriverWait object, and here we have one method called polling every, and pass the time or interval you want to retry. So let me use duration of seconds 2, or let me put 1 second. So now instead of retrying after every 500 millisecond, it is going to retry after 1 second. Let me quickly run and show you the console. So program is over, and if you see here, it is started from 23:28:53, and first try it did the at the same time, and then it is trying at 23:28:54, then 55, and then 56. So after every 1 second it is checking for the condition. So this is one of the good feature of explicit wait using WebDriverWait class. Now let's think of another scenario. While waiting for a condition to be satisfied, we may expect some error or exception, and you want to ignore those exceptions and continue further. I mean, continue for checking condition after interval. For example, when I am extracting the current title, I will explicitly try to convert that title to integer, and since it has only alphabet, so automatically we cannot convert it to integer, and it will give me number format exception. So let me put integer dot parse int and pass the current title. So this statement is going to give me number format exception, and now let's see what happens. I'm going to run the program, come to console, and you can see we have some exception. So we started at 23:48:48, and first time we're checking the condition at the same time, and immediately we are getting number format exception for the input string initial title. So what happened here? As soon as it encountered the exception, it terminated the program. But you don't want this to happen. You want to ignore this exception. So for that, we have another method. Just call WebDriverWait object and put dot, and we have one method called ignoring. And here you need to pass the exception type which you want to ignore. So I want to ignore number format exception dot class. Now if I run the program, what do you think? What will happen? Obviously, it is going to ignore this number format exception, but it is not going to behave in the same way we are thinking. Just to show that, I'm going to run the program and show you the output. So you can see it took 2 seconds to change the title, but still my browser is open, and if you see the console, it is retrying. But why? Let it complete. So it's terminated now, and if you see, it says that we are getting timeout exception, expected condition failed. And if you see further, it says that tried for 30 seconds with 1000 milliseconds interval. And if you come down, it shows number format exception as well. So why it didn't work? Actually, it ignored the exception. That's why it tried for 30 seconds, but also it failed at the last. Because when this until method is getting executed, it is printing this line, and then it is extracting the title, and for this line it is getting exception. So it is not going to checking for this line or the actual condition. It is going to try again after 1 second from here. So it never checked the final statement. That's why my condition was never satisfied, and it waited till 30 seconds and failed later. So for that, instead of generating the exception every time, I'm going to have one flag based exception. So let me create a variable of type boolean like flag true, and I'm going to have if condition. If flag equal to true, then try this statement, but change flag value to false now, so that it will throw number format exception only once. And since we cannot use other than final variables in the lambda expression, so I'm going to have this flag as atomic. So mouse over on this red line, click on this red bulb and convert to atomic. And also I'm going to have simple sysout just to show exception occurred. But here I am making one more mistake. I should put these lines before the exception. Otherwise, these lines will never be executed and will get into the same flow. So now I'm going to run the program and see what happens this time. So you can see browser is closed. That means my program worked successfully. So it started waiting midnight like 5:21. First try happened at 5:21 only. Then exception occurred, and then it is going to retry after 1 second. So whatever exception occurred, it simply ignored. And after 8 seconds, my title was changed and program was terminated. So this is all about ignoring some known exceptions. But here we have a another deep concept. Whenever we are creating an object of WebDriverWait, by default, it will ignore some exceptions. Let me show you that. So I'm going to comment this line, and instead of parse int, I'm going to write clone driver dot find element by dot id, and I will pass some random id. I know that we don't have any element with this id, so it is going to throw no such element exception. But here I am not ignoring that exception. Let me run the program and see what happens. So you can see program is successful. It has thrown the exception, but still it was ignored. How? The reason is when we create WebDriverWait object, then internally it is going to ignore some exception by default. Let me show you that. So click on this WebDriverWait constructor. You'll come here and this is calling another constructor. So let's click on this, and here you can see it is calling the ignoring method and passing no not found exception dot class, which is the superclass of major exceptions, major Selenium related exceptions. Let's click on this not found exception, and here you see 7 inheritors. Click on this and you can see no alert present exception, then no such cookie exception, no such element exception, etc. And when element is not found by find element method, it is going to throw no such element exception, but by default it is ignored. So program was not terminated and it continued. Now last point, I'm going to comment all these if condition, and let me comment this click statement also, because if I don't click on the change title button, it will not change and my condition will fail that I want. Let me run the program. So after 30 seconds, my scenario failed. And if you see, it is saying that timeout exception, expected condition failed, waiting for something, something, something for 30 seconds with 1 second interval. This is the default message. But you don't want this default message. You want some proper meaningful messages. So here I'm going to call another method WebDriverWait dot with message, and I'm going to use title was not changed, log the bug. Now let me run the program, and instead of 30 seconds this time I'm going to wait only 10 seconds. I'm going to run the program. So the program is terminated, and if you see the console, it says that timeout exception expected condition failed, obviously, and then it is giving title was not changed, log the bug. So that's all in this video. We still have some concepts left for explicit wait, which I am going to cover in the next video. Thank you everyone.